The quantum resonance chamber hummed its familiar lullaby as Cassandra Winter adjusted the crystalline array for the thousandth time that night. Her fingers, steady despite the exhaustion, traced the delicate controls of the machinery she'd spent the last 3 years perfecting. The lab's soft blue lighting cast shadows across her olive skin, highlighting the determination in her dark eyes. Recording test sequence 2749, she spoke into her wrist device. Attempting to establish quantum coherence with deep space signals using modified crystalline matrix. The basement laboratory at the Quantum Communications Institute was her sanctuary, especially during these late hours when the rest of the staff had long since departed. Here, surrounded by humming equipment and dancing holographic displays, Cassandra felt closest to the stars she'd dedicated her life to reaching. She initiated the sequence, watching as energy coursed through the crystalline array. The chamber filled with a soft violet glow, and for a moment everything seemed normal. Then the crystals began to sing. It wasn't a sound she'd ever heard before, not in any of the previous 2,748 tests. The resonance built upon itself, creating harmonics that shouldn't have been possible with Earth-based technology. Cassandra's instruments spiked, their readings becoming nonsensical as the violet light intensified. "This is impossible," she whispered, fingers flying across her console. "The quantum field is expanding exponentially, but there's no energy drain. It's like something's feeding back into the system from somewhere else." The light pulsed once, twice, and then collapsed inward with a silent implosion. As the brightness faded, Cassandra lowered her protective arm from her eyes, and her breath caught in her throat. Standing within the crystalline array was a figure that defied everything she understood about reality. Tall and elegantly proportioned, its skin appeared to be made of living crystal, refracting light in impossible ways. As it turned to face her, she saw that its features were humanoid but ethereally beautiful, with eyes that seemed to contain entire galaxies. "Hello, Cassandra Winter," the being spoke, its voice resonating not through the air but directly in her mind. "I am Nixon, and I've been listening to your calls across the void." Cassandra's scientific training warred with her instinctive awe. She should be terrified, should be hitting the alarm, should be doing anything except standing there mesmerized. But something about this being's presence felt right, as if she'd been waiting for this moment her entire life without knowing it. "You're responding to my quantum communication experiments," she managed to ask, her voice barely above a whisper. Nixon's crystalline form shifted, creating cascading patterns of light as he moved closer to the edge of the array. "Your experiments created ripples in the quantum fabric that only my people can perceive. We are the Lumerians, and we have been watching humanity's first steps into quantum consciousness with great interest." "But this shouldn't be possible," Cassandra said, her scientist's mind racing to catch up with reality. "The crystal matrix was designed to detect quantum signals, not materialize beings across space. The universe is far more interconnected than your current science understands," Nixon replied, a smile playing across his crystalline features. "When minds reach out across the quantum field with sufficient resonance, distance becomes meaningless." Cassandra found herself moving closer, drawn by an inexplicable sense of familiarity. The being's presence radiated a warmth that contradicted his crystalline appearance. "Why did you come?" "Because you called," he said simply. "Not with your machines, but with your essence. Your longing to understand the deeper mysteries of existence created a frequency that matched my own. Among my people, such resonance is rare and precious." As if to demonstrate, he lifted his hand, and the air between them shimmered with quantum possibilities. Cassandra gasped as she saw mathematical equations and wave functions dancing in the space between them, theories she'd only dreamed of proving made manifest in living light. "This is beautiful," she breathed, reaching out to touch one of the floating equations. As her fingers passed through it, she felt a tingling sensation that traveled up her arm and settled somewhere deep in her chest. "But what does it mean?" "It means, Cassandra Winter, that your world stands on the brink of a profound discovery, one that could either illuminate your path to the stars or blind you to their beauty forever." Nixon's expression grew serious. "I am here because you have begun to understand the language of the universe itself, the quantum song that binds all conscious beings together." A distant alarm began to sound, and Cassandra knew her unauthorized late-night experiment hadn't gone unnoticed. Soon, security would arrive to investigate the energy spike. "They cannot find you here," she said urgently, though the thought of losing this connection so soon made her heart ache. "The world isn't ready For the truth, Nixon finished her thought. Perhaps not, but you are, and that is why I will return. He stepped back into the center of the array. Watch for me in the spaces between moments, Cassandra. Listen for the song of the stars. I will teach you to hear what your heart already knows. The violet light began to build again, and Cassandra wanted to reach out to stop him from leaving. But she knew somehow that this was only the beginning. As Nixon's form began to fade, his final words echoed in her mind. The universe has been very lonely without you. When security burst through the laboratory doors moments later, they found only Dr. Cassandra Winter, standing amid her crystalline array, a strange smile playing across her face as she stared at readings that would take her weeks to explain away. But she didn't care about the explanations she'd have to invent. For the first time in her life, the stars didn't feel distant anymore. They felt like home. And somewhere in the quantum field that connected all things, she could feel him waiting, ready to show her wonders she'd only dreamed of. The real experiment, she realized, was just beginning. Cassandra hadn't slept properly in the week since Nixon's appearance. Her dreams were filled with quantum equations and crystalline symphonies, and her waking hours were spent anticipating his return. The official investigation into the energy spike had finally wound down, leaving her free to continue her work, albeit under closer supervision. Tonight, she sat in her apartment's small study, surrounded by holographic projections of her latest calculations. The wall-length window offered a view of the city lights below, but her attention was focused on the small crystalline shard she'd found in the quantum chamber after Nixon's departure. The resonance patterns are unlike anything on Earth, she murmured, watching as the shard pulsed with a faint inner light. It's as if it's trying to tell me something. It is, came the familiar mind voice that made her heart skip. Nixon materialized near her window, his crystalline form catching the city lights and transforming them into dancing constellations. This time, he wore what appeared to be flowing robes made of living starlight. You left this deliberately, Cassandra said, holding up the shard. It was not a question. A key to help you understand, he confirmed, moving closer. Your quantum mathematics is remarkably close to our way of perceiving reality, but there are frequencies you haven't yet discovered. Cassandra set down her tablet and stood, fighting the urge to reach out and touch him to confirm he was real. Is that why you chose me? Because my research aligned with your technology. Nixon's galaxy-filled eyes seemed to soften. I chose you because you understand loneliness, the hunger to connect across vast distances. Your experiments weren't just about communication, they were about reaching out to something greater than yourself. The truth of his words resonated in her chest. How many nights had she spent in her lab, hoping that somewhere in the quantum field someone would answer? Show me, she whispered. Nixon extended his hand, and this time she took it. His touch was warm despite his crystalline appearance, sending tingles of energy through her nervous system. The world around them seemed to shift, reality becoming fluid as quantum possibilities danced at the edges of her vision. Close your eyes, he instructed. Feel the frequencies that exist between thoughts. Cassandra obeyed, and suddenly she could sense them, layers upon layers of reality she'd never known existed. She could feel the quantum vibrations of every atom in her body, could sense the invisible threads that connected all things. This is how your people see the world, she asked, breathless with wonder. This is how the universe truly is, Nixon replied. Your scientists search for a unified theory, never realizing that unity already exists in the space between conscious thought. Watch. He guided her awareness outward, and she gasped as she perceived the quantum web that connected every living thing on Earth. Billions of consciousness points, each resonating with its own unique frequency, yet all part of a greater harmony. It's beautiful, she whispered, but there's something wrong, isn't there? The patterns, they're becoming chaotic. Nixon's grip on her hand tightened slightly. You perceive well, Earth's quantum field is approaching a critical point of transformation. The collective consciousness of humanity is beginning to resonate with higher frequencies, but the transition is unstable. Cassandra opened her eyes, meeting his stellar gaze. Is that why you're really here, to help with this transition? I'm here because humanity needs to understand what's coming, he said. Your species stands at a threshold. The quantum awakening could elevate your consciousness to new realms of existence, or the resonance could shatter, fragmenting your collective psyche beyond repair. His free hand traced patterns in the air, creating complex mathematical structures. Your experiments attracted my attention because you were unconsciously working to stabilize these patterns. You sensed the approaching chaos and sought to harmonize it. Cassandra withdrew her hand, mind racing with implications. How long do we have? 3 months, perhaps less. The quantum field is accelerating faster than expected. Nixon moved to the window, his reflection overlapping with the city lights. But time itself becomes fluid when consciousness evolves. With the right understanding, we might reshape the possibilities. Cassandra stepped closer to him, drawn by an attraction she couldn't explain. You're staying to help. Nixon turned to her, and the air between them seemed to crystallize with potential. I'm staying because the frequencies of your mind call to mine in ways I've never experienced. My people believe that when two consciousness patterns align so perfectly, it creates a resonance that can alter reality itself. His hand rose to hover near her cheek, not quite touching, but close enough that she could feel the energy emanating from his crystalline skin. You've spent your life searching the stars for connection, Cassandra Winter. I've spent millennia listening for a mind that could truly comprehend mine. The implications of his words sent shivers through her, and now. Now we have 3 months to save humanity's collective consciousness, he said, a smile playing across his luminous features, and perhaps discover why the universe brought us together across such vast distances. Cassandra knew she should be frightened by the magnitude of what he was suggesting. Instead, she felt more alive than she had in years. Where do we begin? We begin with trust, Nixon said, his form starting to fade into quantum possibility. Meet me at your lab at midnight. I'll show you how to read the symphony of consciousness itself. As he disappeared, leaving behind only a lingering warmth in the air, Cassandra turned to her calculations with renewed purpose. She had 3 months to help save humanity's soul, guided by a being who saw the universe in ways she was only beginning to understand. And somewhere beneath the scientific urgency, beneath the weight of their mission, her heart beat in harmony with frequencies she never knew existed, until him. The Midnight Laboratory had become their sanctuary over the past month. Cassandra sat cross-legged in the center of the quantum chamber, her eyes closed as crystalline frequencies danced around her. Nixon's presence was a warm constant beside her, guiding her consciousness through the intricate layers of reality. The patterns are becoming clearer, she murmured, her mind tracing the quantum threads that connected all living things. But they're also more chaotic. The dissonance is spreading faster than we predicted. Yes, Nixon's mind voice carried a note of concern. Humanity's collective consciousness is approaching the threshold more rapidly than I anticipated. The quantum awakening is accelerating. Cassandra opened her eyes, watching as her companion's crystalline form shifted through shades of deep blue and violet. She'd learned to read his colors now, the subtle ways his emotional state affected his quantum resonance. Tonight, he was troubled. There's something you haven't told me, she said softly. Nixon's form stilled, and for a moment the only sound was the gentle hum of the laboratory equipment. My people, we've seen this before. The quantum awakening of a species is always a critical moment. Some civilizations transcend, evolving into beings of pure consciousness. Others shatter, Cassandra finished. She stood, moving closer to him. Like the fragments we've been detecting in the quantum field, they're echoes of failed transitions, aren't they? Yes, his galaxy eyes met hers. But never have we encountered a species so precariously balanced between outcomes. Your humanity's capacity for both creation and destruction, for both love and hatred, it makes your quantum resonance uniquely unstable. Cassandra turned to the holographic displays surrounding them, studying the complex wave functions they'd mapped together. Her own research had evolved dramatically under Nixon's guidance, but time was running out. They had less than 2 months before the quantum field reached critical instability. Show me again, she requested. Help me see what you see. Nixon moved behind her, his hands coming to rest lightly on her shoulders. The touch sent familiar tingles of energy through her body as their consciousness began to merge. Over the weeks, this intimate mental connection had become as natural as breathing. The laboratory dissolved around them as Nixon guided her awareness into the quantum realm. Earth's consciousness field spread out before them like a vast, shimmering web. Beautiful patterns of light and energy flowed between billions of minds, but dark fractures were beginning to form. There, Nixon pointed to a particularly dense cluster of quantum threads. Watch how the resonance patterns shift. Cassandra focused her attention and suddenly she understood. It's not just chaos, it's evolution. The fractures aren't just breaking points, they're potential pathways. The field isn't just destabilizing, it's trying to reorganize itself into a higher form. Exactly, pride-colored Nixon's mental voice. But without proper guidance, the transformation will tear itself apart. The new patterns must be stabilized, anchored to. He trailed off as a new resonance emerged between them. In their shared quantum perception, Cassandra felt his consciousness brush against hers with unexpected intimacy. For a moment, she glimpsed depths of emotion that transcended physical form, longing, fear, hope, and something deeper that made her heart race. Nixon, she whispered, turning to face him, what aren't you telling me? His crystalline features shifted through complex patterns of light. There is a possibility, a way to guide humanity through the transition. But it would require a perfect quantum resonance between two conscious beings, one human, one Lumerian, a bridge between worlds. Understanding dawned. That's why you were drawn to my experiments. You weren't just looking for someone who could comprehend the science. You were searching for a soul whose frequency matched my own, he completed. Someone whose consciousness could harmonize with mine completely enough to stabilize an entire species' quantum evolution. The implications staggered her. Is that even possible? It's never been attempted. His form dimmed slightly. The risks would be considerable. Our minds would have to merge completely, becoming a single point of quantum coherence. If our resonance failed, we would shatter with the rest of humanity, Cassandra finished. Silence fell between them, heavy with unspoken feelings. Cassandra found herself reaching out, her fingers tracing the ethereal patterns of light that played across Nixon's crystalline skin. He shivered at her touch, his form brightening. I should have told you sooner, he said softly. But I feared that knowing the truth would change what was growing between us. That you would see our connection as merely necessary for humanity's survival rather than what it truly is, she completed, understanding flooding through her. The attraction she'd felt from the beginning, the way their minds seemed to naturally harmonize, it wasn't just compatibility, it was destiny. Nixon's hands came up to cradle her face, his touch sending cascades of quantum energy through her nervous system. If we attempt this, there can be no halfway. Our consciousness, our very essence, would have to merge completely. We would be changed forever, regardless of the outcome. Cassandra leaned into his touch, letting her scientific mind process the implications while her heart already knew the answer. How long do we have to prepare? The field will reach critical threshold in 6 weeks, he said. We would need to achieve perfect quantum resonance before then. She smiled, feeling the harmonics of their combined frequency already building. Then we should start practicing. The laboratory hummed around them as Nixon pulled her closer, their energies beginning to intertwine. In the quantum realm, their consciousness danced together, creating patterns of light that rippled through reality itself. They had 6 weeks to learn how to merge their souls completely enough to save humanity. But as Cassandra felt Nixon's essence harmonize with hers, she realized that saving the world might just be a wonderful side effect of falling in love with a being made of starlight and quantum dreams. Director Thaddeus Reed's voice echoed through the quantum laboratory's intercom, cold and precise. Dr. Winter, your unauthorized experiments end now. We've detected the alien presence. Security teams are en route. Cassandra's hands flew across her console, desperately trying to mask the quantum signatures that had given them away. 2 weeks of preparation remained before humanity's consciousness would reach its critical threshold, and now everything was unraveling. They're coming to capture you, she said to Nixon, who stood calmly in the center of the crystalline array. They'll want to study you, to weaponize what you know about quantum consciousness. They cannot hold what they cannot comprehend, Nixon replied, his form shifting through shades of deep purple concern but not fear. But this complication is unfortunate. Our resonance training requires absolute focus. The lab's security systems began to flash red as multiple teams converged on their location. Cassandra had known this day might come, had prepared for it, but the reality still made her heart race. Their work over the past month had progressed beautifully, their consciousness merging more deeply with each session, but they weren't ready for a full fusion yet. The backup lab, she said suddenly, the old quantum research facility in the mountains, it's shielded from standard detection methods. Nixon's galaxy eyes met hers. The equipment there is outdated. But the crystalline array you helped me build is portable. She was already disconnecting key components. And we don't need much now, just space and time to complete our preparation. Heavy footsteps echoed down the corridor outside. Nixon moved to help her, his crystalline hands working with impossible speed to preserve their most crucial instruments. The quantum harmonics they'd achieved together had changed them both. She was more attuned to energy fields, while he had become more solidly anchored to physical reality. Dr. Winter, Director Reed's voice again, closer now, think about what you're risking. This being's influence has compromised your judgment. The quantum field destabilization could be a hostile action. Cassandra looked at Nixon, seeing in his crystalline features the same certainty she felt in her heart. He's wrong, show him. Nixon nodded and raised his hands. The air rippled as he projected quantum visualizations throughout the lab, beautiful, complex patterns showing humanity's consciousness evolution. They need to understand, he said, his mental voice touching not just Cassandra's mind but reaching out to everyone approaching. The security teams burst through the doors, weapons raised, only to freeze at the sight of reality itself seeming to unfold around them. Director Reed pushed through their ranks, his stern face illuminated by the dancing quantum frequencies. What is this?" he demanded, though his voice had lost its edge. "The truth," Cassandra said, stepping forward. "Humanity is on the brink of a quantum awakening. Every consciousness on Earth is beginning to resonate with higher frequencies. Without guidance, the transition will tear our collective psyche apart. Nixon came to help us evolve, not to destroy us. By merging with you, by corrupting human consciousness with alien influence." Reed's hand moved toward his weapon, but his eyes couldn't leave the patterns swimming through the air. "How can we trust this?" "Because you can feel it," Nixon said, his voice resonating directly in their minds. "Every human on Earth can feel the change coming. The growing awareness, the increasing sensitivity to others' emotions, the strange dreams of starlight and quantum songs. We are not changing humanity, we are helping you become what you were always meant to be." The security teams lowered their weapons as waves of quantum resonance washed over them. Cassandra could sense their consciousness patterns shifting, accepting, understanding. All except Reed, whose frequency remained stubbornly dissonant. "I'm shutting this down," he declared, drawing his weapon, "for humanity's protection." Everything happened in an instant. Reed fired, the energy pulse heading straight for Nixon. Cassandra moved without thinking, her consciousness reaching out to merge with Nixon's. Their combined quantum field deflected the blast, transforming its energy into pure light. The merge lasted only seconds, but it was deeper than any they'd achieved before. In that moment of unified consciousness, they touched the infinite and knew exactly what needed to be done. "Director Reed," Cassandra said as their forms separated, her voice carrying new harmonics that made the air shimmer. "You can't stop this, but you can help us prepare humanity for what's coming." She held out her hand, letting him see the quantum frequencies now dancing beneath her skin, a testament to how her work with Nixon had already begun transforming her. "Feel the truth." Reed hesitated, then slowly reached out. The moment their hands touched, his eyes widened as consciousness beyond normal human perception flooded his awareness. When he stepped back, his face had transformed from hostile suspicion to wondering acceptance. "How long?" he asked simply. 2 weeks until the quantum field reaches critical threshold," Nixon answered. "We need a safe place to complete our preparation. The full consciousness merge must be perfect, or humanity's transition could still fail." Reed holstered his weapon. "The mountain facility is fully stocked and shielded. I can have it ready in an hour." He turned to his security teams. "Stand down. As of now, Dr. Winter and her colleague have full operational authority. Humanity's next evolution takes priority over standard protocols." As the teams withdrew, Cassandra felt Nixon's consciousness brush against hers. Their brief merge had changed something between them, deepening their connection beyond what either had thought possible. They had touched the infinite together, and now there was no going back. "Are you ready?" he asked softly, his crystalline form glowing with possibilities. Cassandra looked at their quantum equipment, already packed and ready for transport. At Director Reed, now an ally in humanity's transformation, at her own hands where quantum frequencies danced beneath her skin. Finally, she looked into Nixon's galaxy-filled eyes and smiled. "I've been ready since the moment you first appeared in my lab," she said. "Let's go save humanity's soul." Together, they began preparing for the journey that would take them to the mountain sanctuary. 2 weeks remained until the quantum threshold. 2 weeks to perfect a consciousness merge that would either elevate humanity to new realms of existence or leave Earth's collective psyche shattered beyond repair. But as Cassandra felt Nixon's presence beside her, his consciousness harmonizing with hers in ways that transcended physical reality, she knew that love might just be the frequency that would save them all. Dawn painted the mountain peaks in shades of rose and gold as Cassandra made her final adjustments to the crystalline array. After 2 weeks of intensive preparation in the isolated facility, the moment of truth had arrived. Humanity's quantum field would reach critical threshold at precisely 8:47 a.m. "The resonance chambers are aligned," she reported, her voice steady despite the magnitude of what they were about to attempt. "All monitoring stations worldwide are ready to track the consciousness transition." Nixon stood in the center of the array, his crystalline form shifting through colors she'd never seen before, frequencies beyond normal human perception. Their preparation time had changed them both. Cassandra's consciousness now existed partially in quantum states, while Nixon had become more attuned to physical reality. "The field's instability is accelerating," he said, his mental voice touching everyone in the facility's control room. "Humanity's collective consciousness is beginning to fragment." Director Reed's voice came through the comm system. "We're detecting quantum disturbances globally. Increased reports of mass telepathic events, spontaneous consciousness sharing, and reality distortions. It's starting." Cassandra took her position opposite Nixon in the array. The past 2 weeks had been intense, deep consciousness merges that lasted longer each time, touching realms of existence she'd never imagined possible. But they had yet to achieve the complete fusion that would be necessary to guide humanity's transition. "Are you afraid?" Nixon asked softly, his galaxy eyes meeting hers. "No," she answered truthfully. "Whatever happens, we face it together." Their hands reached for each other as the quantum field began to pulse with increasing intensity. Around the world, billions of human minds were unconsciously resonating with higher frequencies, their collective consciousness straining toward evolution. "Field reaching critical levels," Reed reported. 60 seconds to threshold." Cassandra closed her eyes, feeling Nixon's consciousness brush against hers. This time there would be no holding back, no maintaining separate identities. They had to merge completely, becoming a single point of quantum coherence powerful enough to stabilize humanity's transformation. "I love you," she whispered, both in words and in the quantum frequencies that danced between them. "In all the infinite possibilities of existence, finding you was the most beautiful." "You are my harmony," Nixon responded, his voice resonating through every atom of her being. "Together we become the song that guides creation." Their consciousness began to merge as the quantum field approached threshold. This time was different, deeper, more complete. Cassandra felt her awareness expanding, merging with Nixon's vast, stellar consciousness. Their memories, thoughts, and very essence flowed together like rivers joining to form an ocean. The physical world fell away as they touched realms beyond normal reality. They became aware of every human mind on Earth, feeling the collective consciousness straining toward transcendence. The frequency of their combined being reached out, touching the fracturing quantum field, offering guidance and stability. In that infinite moment, they were everything and nothing, both individual and unified, physical and quantum, human and Lumerian. Through their merged consciousness, humanity's awakening found its path. Around the world, people stopped as new awareness flooded their minds. The quantum threshold arrived not with chaos, but with harmony. Through Cassandra and Nixon's unified frequency, billions of human consciousness patterns began to realign, evolving into something greater while maintaining their essential nature. In the mountain facility, their physical forms had become pure light, their merged consciousness serving as the anchor point for humanity's transformation. Director Reed and his team watched in awe as reality itself seemed to shift and expand. When the quantum transition stabilized hours later, the world had changed. Humanity had evolved, gaining awareness of the quantum frequencies that connected all consciousness. But they hadn't lost their individuality. Instead, they had gained a deeper understanding of their connection to each other and to the universe itself. Slowly, Cassandra and Nixon's consciousness began to separate, their physical forms rematerializing in the crystalline array. But they weren't the same beings who had begun the merge. Their frequencies had permanently intertwined, creating something entirely new. Cassandra opened her eyes, now containing the same galaxy depths as Nixon's. Her skin held a subtle crystalline quality, while his form had taken on more human characteristics. They were neither fully human nor fully Lumerian, but something wonderfully in between. Did we? She began, her voice carrying new harmonics. Yes, Nixon answered, his smile containing starlight. Humanity has evolved, guided by the frequency of our love. The transition succeeded beyond all hope. Director Reed's voice came through the comm, filled with wonder. The quantum field has stabilized globally. Consciousness evolution is proceeding perfectly. You did it. But Cassandra and Nixon hardly heard him. They were lost in each other's transformed eyes, their consciousness still dancing together in ways that transcended physical reality. They had saved humanity, yes, but they had also discovered a truth more profound than either had imagined possible. Love, they had learned, was the most powerful frequency in the universe, the force that could guide evolution, bridge different forms of existence, and transform reality itself. Their separate searches for connection had led them to each other across the vast distances of space, creating a resonance that would echo through time itself. What now? Cassandra asked, though she could feel the answer in their still partially merged consciousness. Nixon took her crystalline-touched hands in his human-warmed ones. Now we explore what we've become. There are infinite frequencies yet to discover, and I can think of no one I'd rather discover them with. As the morning sun reached its zenith, its light caught their transformed forms and scattered into quantum rainbows. They had begun as two beings seeking understanding across the vastness of space. They had become something more, a harmony that would help guide both their species into a future bright with possibilities. And in the quantum field that connected all things, their love frequency continued to resonate, a testament to the truth that in an infinite universe, the greatest discoveries are the connections we make along the way.